Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another fantastic edition of Sitback with Shaq and Anu. It is a Monday, and good evening, Anu.
Good evening.
Look like it's power cut for you.
I tell you, the power went off at 9 o'clock tonight, so completely caught me unawares. But I have to ask you this: is it me or does my teeth look a little whiter than normal?
Yeah, I think you've done a good job this morning in that case.
Really.
But it's been a crazy weekend this weekend, Anu.
I tell you, it's the best kind of weekend for, I think a lot of people, I think the majority of this country are in celebratory mood. And, barring a few incidents that kind of, turned violent at the end. We still don't know who did it or what happened. But trust me, what a lot of people had wanted has been achieved.
Yeah, that's for sure. And of course, this has the Aragale has actually been there for a long time. I think ever since I think the end of March, when the first protest was outside the president's president's private residence in Mirihana. I think we were together on that day also, Anu, and we
Absolutely.
obviously
Because
experienced that too.
it was breaking news at the time, because something like that hadn't happened before. Nobody,
Yep.
I mean, nobody either could muster up the courage or, just that people weren't that way inclined in this country. But we have progressed in leaps and bounds. and I literally mean leaps and bounds because there was a lot of leaping and bounding. And, guess what's happened, Finally, people power has kind of found its voice in Sri Lanka, and it's amazing feeling.
Yeah, it is fantastic. I mean, this weekend we obviously I was there. I was obviously taking a look at the protests and the amount of
Yeah.
people, all walks of life, Anu, all walks of life, and different ages. Lots of people thought that there was actually the majority were the youth that were there. No, it wasn't the youth. They're only the youth, but there's so many individuals obviously marched down to Colombo. That is exactly what we're going to be talking about, the aftermath of the 9th of July. And we also have a very special guest coming to us live from GGG, which we're going to be talking to him in just a few minutes. But there's so much that we need to basically ask. At the same time, like you said, I know there are so many allegations against the Aragale, so to say, in terms of what happened. We will find out all those details. I think it's time for us to introduce our guest on the show for today on Sit Back with Shaq and Anu, Buwanaka Perera. Good evening, Buwanaka. Well, I think he's going to come back on the show again. But yeah, as you know, as our viewers know clearly, we're desperately trying to get back to the studio to ensure the fact that we have seamless in terms of connectivity. But how's your fuel situation?
Non-existent. my car has now been turned into a garden ornament, and I mean it's a place for to kind of dry your clothes on, for birds to perch on, and
Right.
hopefully miss some falling coconuts because there are three
Yeah.
coconut
Well,
trees in the garden.
My car has actually been in the fuel line since last night.
Oh, right.
And I was hopeful that I will be able to get some fuel today, but unfortunately that didn't happen. So hopefully, keeping my fingers crossed, hopefully that we might be able to get some fuel tomorrow. I mean, look at the state
Yeah.
we're in. I know we're talking about fuel queues.
I tell you. So who's in the car right now?
Somebody.
Okay, good to know.
Somebody.
Anyway,
Really not me,
okay.
but somebody. Yeah, no, there is some responsible individual who is actually taking care of the car at the moment.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah,
So just as
we are. Sorry, Anu.
No, just as well. And I do hope that Buwanaka can join us because, as you know, he is joining us from GGG, and he's on his phone. And connectivity these days is a touch and go situation. So I do hope he comes around. But we also, coming up on the show, we do have to feature a song that that has actually taken society by storm. It's about the Aragalaya, different artists from, with very diverse opinions, kind of opining on this. Because there's also, Shaq, also as soon as Buwanaka comes on board, there are several questions that we need to ask him, because this is something I'm getting from multiple sources, because what happens now, and what kind of authority do the people who led the Aragalaya? I mean, led is the wrong word because there were no leaders really. It was a mass protest, and everyone had kind of equal status. But not having a hierarchy also poses problems.
So those are the questions that we're going to basically ask him. So I think it's right now. He's back. He's on the show. Buwanaka Perera on the show with us live from GGG. Good evening, Buwanaka.
Hi, Buwanaka.
Hello. Hello. Good evening. Sorry about my voice. It's been a tough couple of days.
Yeah.
Perfectly understandable, and so as our viewers can see, is actually coming from GGG at the moment, and we've been obviously talking about the connectivity there, and isn't all that great, but I think we should be able to scrape through this one. Buwanaka, we can see your beard, which is really nice at the moment. Maybe just tilt the tilt the camera to the face. May I help? There we
is
are.
it better?
That sounds. Yeah, that looks much better. Much better.
Sorry.
That looks much. Okay. So it's certainly been a busy couple of days for you guys.
Did you fall off? I think he fell off.
I did. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That never happened on live TV before. I apologize that I had to laugh.
But first
It's been
of all,
barely a minute.
jokes aside, we have to say congratulations on what you have achieved. It is an incredible feat and something that Sri Lanka has never seen before. I don't think we struggle like this even to get the colonial masters out. In fact, we didn't. We got it simply because India got it, right? So, finally we belong to those bunch of nations who actually got their freedom, and it feels great.
Yeah, it's a fantastic feat that basically that we have quite a few questions obviously lined up, and I know for a fact that there are a few answers that you would also like to basically give from stuff that actually happened over the weekend. Buwanaka, before we actually start our shows, we start off with a daily poll, and Anu, you can take away the daily poll. Let's find out what it is for today.
Absolutely. So once again, our poll is profited to kind of include our guest and what we're going to talk about tonight. And without further ado, here it is. All you have to do is send a yes or no answer to our hotline. Okay? Does the Aragalaya have a reason to go on after the president leaves? Yes or no answers only. WhatsApp your answer to our hotline 077 669 1590. Once again, does the Aragalaya have a reason to go on after the president leaves? Yes or no answers only. What do you say to that?
Does the Aragalaya have a reason to go? Well, as long as people are struggling, I guess the Aragalaya will continue. And I think as long as humanity exists, Aragalaya will always be there. But once Gota leaves, which has been one of the principal goals we wanted to achieve. There's another one or two to be done, but yeah, after that, the movement will sort of work on, I guess, like outside, outside the political sphere, but like influence policy making at the same time. So because it's not an organized group, it's a bunch
go
of
on.
organizations, it's a bunch of individuals. So there's no set manifesto, but we do have our demands. But
Yeah.
then those demands, there's no rule book to be stuck onto. So
I'm glad you said
We
influence policy decisions, Buwanaka, because I'm sorry, Shaq, I'll just ask this question.
yeah, sure,
Because
sure.
when you say policy decisions, now we are going to be talking to, you will be trying to influence elected officials, right? Let's say maybe not
yeah,
this bunch of people, but another bunch of elected officials. But now you all don't have a hierarchy there. Okay, there is no leadership there. Everyone is pretty much equal. So who decides? What kind of decisions are taken? What kind of policies are formulated? And how do you impact civil society and government? All those things. Now, for instance, I'll ask you a question. Like the legal processes. There are so many things that that people would like to change, right? Especially, I mean, some things that are enshrined in our democracy are not followed through with. So how do you want to get involved in that, and how legal is it?
so when we say get involved in policy making, we mean we don't mean like run for office, but if that is what you want to, feel free. After all, you have that
Yeah,
freedom and liberty to do so.
of
What
course.
we mean when it comes to policy making is making sure that if we have to, if we don't have enough provisions in our constitution or in the law, we'll fix those. We'll put pressure and we'll fix those. We'll create the institution we need to achieve accountability. To put that to make it easy for the public to engage with the parliamentarians, the cabinet, or even the president and the prime minister. So it's more like
Wo-
the involvement of the general public, like people, like for example, there are a lot of things that should entail in it. One step which we saw just recently, like recent few years ago, was the RTI. I'm not commending anyone for bringing it because the
Yeah,
RTI, I don't know why it should have been there by default in a free democracy,
absolutely.
but that's one step ahead anyways. So we need to create like a vast system of such bodies and such laws to make sure the public is, it's easy for the public to engage with the representatives. It's easy for the representatives to listen to the public and make sure they listen to. Because right now we
this
have
is
what we have, the laws, what we have is like we have the public day. It's 1 day a week for the representatives. You go to UK, you can walk into the office at any time, talk to your local representative.
Absolutely.
So that's the ease of access. That's the connectivity you should look for between the people and the representatives. And that
you
would
guys have
make it easy for the
obviously
policies to be made.
Yeah, no, you have been certainly at this ever since I think end of March, from the first protest site outside the president's private residence. And from that point, it really
Yeah.
has been relentless to where you have been, and where you have actually pushed to where you are right now. Let's talk about the final hurrah, so to say, on the 9th of July. Just talk us through the workings behind that. Firstly, why the 9th of July? Is it because it was a sequence from the 9th of May where that prime minister stepped down, then of course the 9th of June, or Basil stepped down? But what's the story? And trying to mobilize the entire country, which you have done so very successfully, the group of you have done so very successfully, is not very easy. How did you get about doing that?
So I think the first part of the question, why 9th? 9th of April was when we started this. as in the Occupy Golf phase or Occupy Colombo. Occupy Colombo happened 9th, and then the attack that was carried out that happened on the 9th, and forever the general public who were not, I wouldn't say who were not involved, but who couldn't physically be at at golf face had always asked for a day. Now there's a lot of opinions when someone asks for a day, but
Yeah.
so as the time went by, it was clear that there's a lot of responsibilities that people can't just let go and come here. But they're ready, willing to sacrifice one day, whether it's their jobs, whether it's the time with their family, or just with their friends. They're willing to sacrifice that day. And given everything that happened on the number 9, there was this thought, okay, let's go ahead with 9th. We can't stay for another 100 days. We can't stay for almost 2 years, just like the South Koreans. So we were like, no, we've got to set a date. We've got to be, I'm not saying we've got to be aggressive, but we've got to sort of put a foot down, like, so that's why the 9th, why 9th was such an organization. Say, you mean like as to how we worked around the 9th, like how we coordinated everything?
Exactly, how you
So,
coordinated everything and how you mobilized the country.
okay, I'm not going to say names and as such, but
No, don't say names. Don't say names. Just the workings behind.
okay,
I don't think it's fair to
yeah,
actually start saying names.
okay. So, around 8:39, people started gathering around Chatham Street, and then by 10 o'clock, I think, like people started flooding in through this way, and at the same time, so I think everyone here, even at GGG, were preparing for sort of a confrontation somewhere after sundown, because if you look at the past couple of months, things sort of turned aggressive, confrontational when the sun goes down. I don't know why, but it's like people just get angry when it's dark. So, but by like 10:30, 11, like there was just, you can see, because our tent is right next to, the tent that I stay in is right next to the statue, um, on the hill, so you can see when you wake up the presidential secretariat. So we are just sitting there, we're getting ready with our masks, and we can see like 30, 40 tear gas just fired from the presidential secretariat. And we're like, okay. And then I think there was at it came to a point where like people didn't need to be told, okay, we've got to go through here, or we've got to hold ground here. We'll get back and we'll uh, move forward. No, none of that was there. It was just like this collective decision making happening one after the other, and the energy was just amazing. It was I know a lot of people got hurt, and some people are critical, but the energy to just, we are here to finish this job. Everyone, people didn't even know the name of the person next to them, but they're just like ducking from the bullets. They're just, it's crazy. It's crazy energy. Amazing.
So how? Okay, when breaking through. So I mean, obvious no communication. It's not like you all had walkie-talkies to kind of coordinate this like
Yeah.
a military movement. It just happened on
Yeah.
its own, and kind of
Even
masses to
mobile phones. Even
yeah.
mobile phones for
So
that matter, because there are so many people.
you
Just
wouldn't have been
nothing. You
able to
can
hear each
maybe take a direct call for about a couple of seconds. That's it. No WhatsApp, no
other.
Facebook, no Instagram, nothing.
Absolutely. But the thing was this, right? Everyone kind of had a hive mentality and somehow, kind of occupied and broke through the barriers that needed breaking through, especially the old parliament, I mean, the presidential secretariat, and, the president's house, the palace. I mean, I hate to use the word the palace because, this is
Yeah,
public property as we are all
there are no
concerned.
palaces
And
in the People's Republic.
Absolutely. And people should have had access to these places anyway. Hopefully, from now on, that's going to be modus operandi that we get used to. And, you just say what you want to say when you want to say it, and, to whomever, because they are, after all, your elected representative, and that's their job. It's as simple as that. But, I mean, when did you know that the battle was, that it was turning in the people's favor? Because up to a certain point, nobody knew what was happening.
Yeah. I mean, we were expecting the worst, and we still are until
Yeah.
he steps down, like physically goes home. But the moment they broke through the gates, like that was the wait, we're actually going in. We've actually done it. This is the turning point. And as soon as broke in, we hurried our way to the presidential secretariat because we knew that okay, once the news comes this way, it's only a matter of seconds before they break through. And we just came right on time as people just broke through the fence and just started running up the stairs, and we just had that front seat row. We're like, oh wow, this is it's like because I know I've watched things like the documentaries on the Ukrainian occupation and about Tiananmen Square. I've read about that, and like I've always sort of thought like, oh, this is crazy to have an Occupy movement like that, but to see it happen at home, it's
It is
crazy.
something
It's
else.
crazy.
I think we actually have a question coming up on your screen right now, Buwanaka. What is your economical mobility even after we have been facing a recession that you can't resist, according to Dilruk? What is your economical mobility even after we have been facing a recession that you can't resist? Dilruk wants to know.
As in my personal,
Yeah,
Well,
Shaq,
I think,
actually,
yeah.
this question needs a little bit of
well,
interpretation, right? Because,
yeah,
because I think he's talking about the country, or, because.
Yeah, it says yours,
yeah.
so
'Cause right
I
now,
don't.
if that's what they want. Right now, I've lost one of my jobs. So I used to work for a newspaper under Dilit Shavi. Oh shoot! I shouldn't have said that.
No, but
Never
it is
mind.
what it is.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is. I lost one there, and then now I'm freelancing for on the media outlet. Um, well, it's not economic wise. It's not great, and I'm not mad at anything other than the fact that we have to face this. It's just that like okay, when you're young, you have things you want to do. Like you want to live life, you want to travel, you want to enjoy, you want to party, and like. But when you know you have the energy, you want to do it, and you have the motivation to do it, but because of things that you had no responsibility over, you can't really, because you have to prioritize things like taking care of people back home or even your own medicine. Like it's crazy that someone my age should go through something like that, because it's not fair. It's not fair.
Agree.
And so yeah, economic wise, yes, that's there. So just holding on tight till things become better. But
Let's get into
country wise,
let's
yeah,
sorry, Monica, let's get into actually the crunch of this Aragalia at the moment. From the time you started,
yeah,
obviously the caption has to be the fact that the president has to leave. Now, the president has said that he is going to leave on the 13th. And now the individuals of
yeah.
the Aragalia obviously still at the president's secretariat and president's office, waiting for that moment to happen. What happens when he does resign from his post? From the Aragalaya's point of view, what's the next step? This is what you've always wanted. Now you have achieved it, hypothetically speaking, on the 13th. What's your first step from that point onwards?
Okay, I think we may have
Yeah,
frozen there.
yeah, I think we'll basically get back to him right now. But from what we hear from Buwanaka, of course, from the 9th of July, the camaraderie that obviously has been there is just amazing, and the energy that he's obviously talking about. We saw it on TV screens, but then for
Yeah.
someone who was right back in the middle of it, it must have been something else altogether.
Absolutely, and I always say, hard-won things, even if it's love, you treasure it more. Your freedom all the more so, because right now, people have, without any shadow of a doubt, made sure that we are heard. And I don't think, even, let's say, hopefully for at least about 50 years, no government representative is going to dare kind of ignore the people's visions, because after all, it is a democracy, and therefore, people's must views and their aspirations must rule paramount. And this has been clearly established, Shaq. And for me, this is the victory. What happens next is, anyone's guess. But I think we are a nation of 22 million people, and to find economic stability for 22 million people is not going to be that hard. You got to make some tough decisions and make the call. It's as simple as that. Oh, we have him back.
Yeah, we have him back, Buwanaka. I don't know if you actually heard the question
The
before
connection
you
is.
did. Don't worry about it. We'll fight through
Uh,
this. Okay.
could you repeat that? Yeah. Could you repeat that question again?
Sure.
Please.
Yeah. So I said from the time that you started the Aragalia, there's been only one notion, and there's only one requirement, that the president has to step down. Now, the president has given an indication that he is going to step down on the 13th of July. So, would it be like 80% or 90% victorious? What is the first thing that you, as a group, as the Aragalia, are going to do when you hear the fact that he has stepped down? What's your next move? What's your next step?
We have to make sure that it's not just him. Like, that is our first goal, to send Gotabe home. Second is to send the Prime Minister home. And then, in my opinion, it's okay to elect someone who had won an election, who had got the approval, the mandate of the people, not someone who just came there out of credit, who just came. So
But
after that, yeah, sorry. So I meant, after Gotabaya goes home, we want the Prime Minister to leave. And I personally, I'm okay with anyone from the Parliament who has gone in there, like, who was elected into the Parliament, not through the national list, to be elected by the Parliament as a president. Because we've got to respect the Constitution. Even though some of us might not like it, but until it is changed, or until a new constitution is introduced, we've got to respect that. We've got to follow it. We've got to work our way around it as much as we can, but we can't just go against it. So, in my opinion, that is the best thing to do, but not to have this Prime Minister be the one who's going to take over from Gotabaya. That is like that. If that happens, that shows how much the political institution in this country, the whole institution, understands what the people are asking, or what the people are calling for.
But isn't that the constitution, Buwanaka? If president steps down, automatically the prime minister takes over. Isn't that the constitution that we are following?
Yes, but there is the conflict. What right does a man who has not even been elected into the parliament, who came in through the national list, has the right to lead a government?
yeah,
How's that?
but this is
I
your.
mean, I'm not a lawyer, but like the way I see with my knowledge is that okay, but then we can pick someone from randomly from the road and say, okay, this guy is good. It's
Yes,
yes, we
absolutely.
have to work with the constitution. This is where we've got to work around it without
But
completely
like
throwing the constitution.
this is your, you said this is your personal opinion. Now, is this
Yeah, this
opinion
is
a
my personal
popular?
opinion.
Yeah, is it? But this opinion,
Yeah,
is it shared by your, fellow
well,
revolutionaries? I mean, I use it advisedly because it was revolution. And is it popular? I mean, is that the popular opinion at GGG?
I would say yes. That would be the common, as in it might be different slightly. It might be okay. I prefer this person, or I prefer the person. After all, everyone has their own political biases, or even though when they come here, they leave those biases aside and unite for a common goal. But they still have their political biases, so they're like, okay, once they leave, I think he would be, or she would be, or he would be. But I think that's up to the parliament to decide. It's
Yeah.
up to parliament to
Okay.
decide, unless we want to go for a referendum.
Right. Here's
Rachel asked this question. Is there anyone with the required understanding and ability within the Aragalaya to take up a political position? This is Rachel who's asking this question.
A lot of people have been asking this question.
Yeah.
So the way I see it, I don't think we have to put someone on a platter, and uh, I don't think. Sorry, just give me a second. Yeah. I don't think we as in the Aragalaya or GGG has to offer one on a platter.
Yeah.
If the people of this country have understood what this whole Aragalaya has been about, what sort of a change we are calling for, they should be able to sort of, the way I see it, move away from that person-centric or like that name-centric, family-centric politics and choose representatives. I'm not going to call them leaders, representatives who like look into their values, look into their ideals, look what they
Yeah.
stand for, see whether this person like don't settle for the minimum, and it's up to the people if they do see people around here or people outside or people anywhere in this country to choose whether that leader, that representative is good enough to represent my opinion or my view on what needs to happen. I think that's the
Buwanaka,
only
I
way.
completely, yeah, I completely agree with you, and I, actually fundamentally disagree with that question actually that Rachel asked. Simply because I'm talking about understanding and ability, it's not like we've had people with understanding and ability anyway. This is why we are in this mess. I mean, these
Yes.
so-called purported political pundits have led us down, Chisel Creek without a paddle, and now asking us to kind of, shovel it out of the
Yeah.
way. Come on. So I think absolutely, like you said, look at people, what they stand for, their ideals, their character, and vote for them. They'll be far more honest and do a damn good job, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. Definitely.
Buwanaka,
Uh,
you guys obviously were talking about the system change. I think this is a question that we actually have requested from a fair amount of people. Something, okay,
somebody just
all right,
walked in. Yeah.
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 Sorry.
So
One of
no
the
worries.
Nilanivasa, official residents of the GGG Grama Sevaka. So everyone comes here to charge their phone, charge their battery packs, and like even do social media posts and things like that.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
So let's look at the point that now where the Aragalia has taken over the presidential secretariat and the president's residence also at the same time. I believe you guys are actually sort of managing the crowds that are coming there, and getting a hold of individuals who are coming in and out, which is also going to be a bit of a tiring effort. I want to know, how did you manage to do that, to actually open it to the public we've seen footage where the armed forces are still there, and they're still obviously maintaining law and order, so to say. But you guys have taken the role in terms of sort of crowd control the whole situation. How did that work out?
So that sort of began like we've always been advocating for non-violence and not to vandalize public property and not to basically destroy anything and not to destroy anything. So we made sure once we got there that we sort of, because there was a lot of people that we knew as in from the movement, from the government. So we sort of collectively decided that okay, we've got to divide these three places amongst ourselves and sort of be the custodians. I wouldn't really use the word custodian, sort of just help coordinate things until he resigns, and so we can hand over these places back to the state. Back to the state, not the Rajapaksa. Back to the state. So we've been looking after that since, like yesterday, I was there from 3 till 9 with me, myself, and myself and my friends. So it's hectic. It's hectic because that's an old building, and there's thousands of people waiting to come inside, and we've got to manage the crowd in a way that the floor above doesn't collapse on the ground floor. So a lot of people don't understand why we are trying to control the crowds because they think, oh, we are trying some sort of take ownership of the place or like sort of get your own rules running. It's not that, it's for their own safety. It's for their own safety. So yeah, they scold us. We've explained to them that we can't help it because people are excited to see what this is all about, to see what sort of life these people have been living when people were dying in the streets. So we've got to sort of balance both of that. So we've got people we coordinate with, we've got subgroups, even though with the crowds it's kind of difficult sometimes to get them in touch. So people are just like, we are just running up and down physically from the Gama to the secretariat, then to the palace, then again to temple trees. It's yeah, it's very tiring, but we've got to do that because it only takes a matter of minutes to just completely destroy something with this much of a number. So you've always got to make sure that people are calm, people are not going to let out their frustration on these buildings.
But
At the end of the day, it's
authority, yeah. When you wield that authority, is it respected? I mean, people shout at you or insult you, and do they accept it, or like do they want to fight?
In most cases, they do. I would say 90% of the time, people are like, we tell them, okay, don't do this, don't go in there. We are not hiding any rooms because we don't want it's ours, or it's got something that belongs to us. It's just that we want to sort of balance the weight. We need to make sure people don't steal things. At the end of the day, it's Sri Lanka. It's not a new country. So we've still got the same problems on a different day, different context. So we've got to understand these problems are there in our society, and it's there in there as well. So we've just got to make sure that we don't give space for those. So that's the only reason. Like, we don't allow people to go in the shrine rooms because there's a lot of gold, there's a lot of precious artifacts, and we can't risk frustrated, angry people going in there even to see, because you never know what sort of a rage these people come with.
Buwanaka, having said that, it leads directly into the next question which Sarah has posed up. Basically, the news channel today showed damages that have been done to the place. What's the truth there?
Yeah.
Have there been damages, or
no,
are they?
Yes. So on the 9th, when people came in there were, everything was so well, like there were broken doorknobs, but that was like minimum damage. No one has even written anything on a wall. And there were like even glassware, people were using glassware. And then on the 10th, a lot of people who are not part of the movement came to see as tourists. They were just here to see these places. They were not. They were not here to protest. They were not here. Maybe they were here to show their solidarity, but they were, in my opinion, they were acting very carelessly, and they forgot that the people who had spent their time fighting for this, advocating for this for months, had, at the end of the day, they are the ones who are responsible for these places. So instead of helping us maintain, like, have that responsibility, they just went ahead and, like, it was no help to us at all. No help at all. And even the Prime Minister's house, uh, I can assure you, because if the Aragale wanted to destroy anything, set fire to a place, we could have done that here. We had all the numbers, all the people we wanted.
Yeah.
Why would this happen 5 kilometers away from the heart of the movement? When the cops literally left.
Yeah,
Yeah.
on that
Yeah.
note, I think that's the question that we should ideally get into, because there are a lot of I think it's very murky in the media at the moment, because of course it's more like he says she says sort of thing that's actually going on.
Yeah.
So we want to basically get it from the Aragalia itself. What's the story? What really happened at the Prime Minister's residence? Were people basically told to gather at Prime Minister's residence? Because we had tweets running around on that day requesting the people to gather. Did that rile people up at that point for obvious be there? And then, unfortunate situation, the Prime Minister's residence was set ablaze, which clearly is not the way to go about these things. But what really happened, and what transpired on that night?
I was there. I was right outside just before people sort of broke in there. And there were quite a lot of people behind, and yes, there were messages around. People were putting up stories on Instagram. People were putting up posts on Facebook saying people gather at Lotus Road. People, they need support. Police are just brutal, and the video started circulating about the News First journalist, a photographer, who was getting beaten up by so many cops, and people just got riled up, and everyone around that area just started flooding in there. But this is where things sort of get a bit murky. The people, they just gave the same energy that they gave here at GGG. But once they broke in, like as they started breaking into the house, you can already like sort of feel that something's off, the energy. And we stopped at the gate, we turned back and we came out. But like it was like less than a minute, and the house was already on fire. And then we start seeing videos of the cops helping people out of that wall, jump that wall from the house, and things don't add up. Things just don't add up. The rate at which that house, because that's a massive compound. It's not a small house. That's a huge compound. You can't just set fire to a concrete compound like that, unless, I don't know. In my opinion, there's something that happened there that we had nothing to do with. Because the moment we started seeing the fire, everyone, because I've been here for 3 months, and I know how many people, the ones who are from the Gamma, from the movement, who's been involved in this movement for so long. There were so many people there. But as soon as the house started burning, well, everyone just like, no, we've got to go. Something's up. This is not something that we would do. And we just all started walking back. So there's something fishy about it. I'm not going to say what happened or who's to be blamed, but something was scripted in there. That was.
So you
Yeah.
obviously,
And it's obviously, I mean,
yeah.
And it's not like, petrol or kerosene is easy to come by these days, right? And you can't.
And I'll tell you one more thing. I'll tell you all one more thing. So when we went into the presidential palace, this was right after they broke in, and then we came back to the presidential secretariat and we went back again. That was after about 2.5 to 3 hours. And the gas canister, these massive, the tall gas cans, uh, they're still there. If people wanted to set fire, they could. They had all the fuel, all the manpower they wanted. If they wanted to set fire to the governor's house, if they wanted to set fire to temple trees, no one's stopping
But the
them. There's no
question,
cops. There's no.
yeah, but the
Yeah.
question here, I mean, this is, I suppose, for both Anu and Buwanaka also at the same time. The question here is the fact that why the Prime Minister's residence? Why the Prime Minister's residence? Why do you think
Absolutely.
Exactly.
it was the Prime Minister's residence?
It makes absolutely no sense to
As
me.
in why we went to protest? No, as to why.
No. As
Um,
in, why was the Prime Minister's residence basically set ablaze? Like you said, there are other places that could have been done.
yeah,
Why the Prime Minister's residence?
yeah. Like if we wanted to do it, there's so many other institutions that people would have done it to. But
Yeah.
I think our non-violence part has been extremely successful. Well, we've been pushing for a non-violent movement because, and I think people had learned their lesson. Probably, I hope they did. They have, because all of the violent insurrections they never led anywhere. They've never led anywhere. So hopefully, this time it's going to be a success.
Okay, I think we have a question coming up, Anu, which will be up on the screen right now. Can you Anu, can you read that, or should I read it out for you?
I cannot read it at all. It's
Okay.
all kind of.
So Burak, let me read it out for you. There are factions within GGT who are dictating terms to the government and demanding that they be consulted on all decisions, aspects of constitution, policy, economy, etc. This could be a dangerous trend and contrary to all that the genuine factions of the Aragalia like itself have achieved so far. Ideally, the Aragalia should play a monitoring role for the periphery to ensure the status quo remains. What are your thoughts?
I'm sure this is my wife asking the question. This is her kind of language. Yeah.
So there are factions at GGG, and there are organizations, there are individuals. So we have meetings, like we meet up, whoever that's there, whenever possible. There's a sort of communication which we use to coordinate those. And we physically meet here. You can walk in and see. There's no issue in GGG. And people propose ideas. And when they go representing the organization or as an individual. But when they do as an represent, because no one has the right to represent the Aragale. The Aragale is the people's. What gives you the right to represent the people? No one can. Even if that person has a huge social media presence, or whether that person has a huge influence when it comes to politicians, or whether it's a celebrity or whoever.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter. You do not have the right to represent during this movement as a representative of the movement, because you haven't consulted with each and every single person who's involved in the article. You can't. You physically can't. It's impossible. So when people go, they go as that individual or as that organization. But there is a trend in media where they sort of say, "Oh, the Aragalaya has gone and met." But in every discussion, in every interview, in every meeting, we always say that's why. Even like from the beginning, I'm like, in my opinion, because we always say that this is what I believe in, and I'm just a small part of the huge system behind the Aragale. That's what all of us are. Even you. That's what all of us are. So no one can go as a representative of the Aragale. They can go and they can tell
Have
why.
you personally spoken to any elected representative, any politician about the Aragalia? Have you gone and met them? Because we do see certain individuals as representing the Aragalia who actually
No,
gone and met members of parliament,
no.
etc. So does it defeat the purpose of the Aragalia by meeting them, in your opinion?
In my opinion, now this is my opinion. This is also why I have
Right.
not met up with the political representatives, because I believe in a system change where the current individuals who hold power cannot be involved in when it comes to the new system that we want to bring, because they've all been part of that 74-year curse.
Yeah.
If
Right.
we want to start new, we have been given that opportunity for a fresh start. We'll start with a clean slate. For what reason? Because already, like we hear things like, oh, there's a minister who doesn't live in his own house, like in the official residence, he lives in his own house. My God, exceptional politician. But that's just the bare minimum.
Yeah.
But because the bar is so low, people see these as the most exceptional things. These are the great leaders that we've always wanted. So I do not think that it's fruitful to go and discuss anything, because there's nothing to be discussed. As like in my opinion, once Gota goes home, once Ranil resigns, because he shouldn't be involved in the picture at all. We should, like, this is my opinion once again. We should go
Yeah.
into snap elections. We need to go into
Uh,
election because the people are
yeah.
ready to decide, and let them decide.
But
Give a
having said
party,
that,
whatever individual party.
yeah.
Yeah.
Having said that, I really don't want to see the same faces, coming to represent us, and our choice to be kind of defeated on a technicality. So just tell me, in your opinion, and including yourself, how many people from the GGG and people who helped the GGG, how many of you are going to run for parliament
I
if there are
honestly
snap
don't know.
election? But would
I
you?
honestly don't know. There might be.
Yeah.
There might be individuals, but I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
All
But
right.
Like
then the
Okay.
problem
legit,
Excellent.
I don't know.
yeah, the problem therein lies that the same bunch of people who are career politicians, okay, I mean, they treat this like a job, whereas it's supposed to be a democratic term in office. I think personally, 2 terms in office, you get the hell out of there. It should be a mandatory requirement that you don't make
100%.
a job out of it. Yeah. and
If you
and you should
fail
have a
once, you get the second time to try again. And if you fail that
absolutely.
time too, you go home. You make the space for a fresher face to come in.
Yeah, even
That's the
if you're
beauty of
successful.
democracy.
Yeah, even if you're successful, if you're a great cabinet minister, if you're a great parliamentarian,
Oh
that's
yeah.
enough. Make way for new faces.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you eliminate
Diversify the
corruption.
representation.
Absolutely.
So
But on a technicality, I don't want to be voting for the same lot. You know what I mean? I
yeah.
don't want it to
Yeah.
simply be this or that. There should be a vast pool
Mhm.
of people, young people especially, that we have to choose from, because they will be accountable and they will make decisions relevant to the age, and for the future. I don't want a bunch of 70-year-olds coming and thinking, what, I got 5 years more to probably live, and I'll make the most of it. So that's why, I strongly urge that you have
That
a
is
lot of
also why
political.
this sounds a bit sadistic, but that is also why they make such dumb policies, because they're not going to live through it. It's us who's got to live through their decision. So
Yeah,
they'll die thinking that I've done such a good job. We've got to.
Right.
absolutely.
One final question before we do go, Buwanaka. Now, of course, there is murmurs about an all-party government that is going to be created if the president steps down and the prime minister steps down. So many things obviously are being sort of floated around. What does the Aragalia think about an all-party government? Are you guys for it, or what's the story, or what's your reaction to that? An all-party government.
Okay.
We're on. Okay,
Unfortunately, I
so
think we lost him at the tail end.
Yeah,
Let's see if
I
he
think
can get back on. But
if he if he's back on, I think that's a very important question that we'd like to obviously have answered from
yeah,
Buwanaka, of course. Just like to let
exactly.
everyone know that Buwanaka is not someone who's representing the Aragalaya. There's no
No, no, yeah.
individuals out there who are
Part of the
representing the
no.
Aragalaya. He's part of the Aragalaya, and of course, lots of them have
Shaq,
different opinions.
yeah,
Yeah. He's back. So, Monica, the question that we wanted to get from you before we leave is the fact that, like I said earlier on, there's of course talks about an all-party government that is going to be basically established if the president and the prime minister step down. What is the Aragalaya's position about an all-party government that is being spoken about right now? Are you guys, or is the majority of you okay with it, or is that something that you will still not accept?
A majority of us are okay with it because all of us want to stabilize the country. I mean, like, I know that there is the same narrative that the government has been pushing for the past couple of months, but their narrative is also like how Germany was stable under Hitler, but that doesn't that doesn't make it right.
yeah,
So,
Right.
but we actually want to achieve stability because that stability affects our livelihood. It affects our stomach, you know. So we want
yeah,
our tourist industry to come back on its feet. We want our industries to start running in a sustainable manner. So we want this country to basically get its life back on. So we have to sort of, I think, in my opinion, we have to accept an interim government. Also think it's best if it's an all-party government because that would also make sure that there's a much wider representation in such a critical time. Um, so I think yeah, it's good, but I don't think we should engage as to okay who should be there or who should be there like directly with the politicians. Okay, you should go or you should be in here. Instead, call for the people to decide whether these people should be running these ministries or these people should be. This is where I tell you the Aragalaya cannot really end until we achieve. But that doesn't mean that the occupation movement might not end. It will eventually once the goals are met. Even though the president had said he's leaving, we're not going to trust his word until he until he leaves physically. So it'll be here, but the Aragalaya will always be there. Will always continue to live in the Sri Lankan in every human's life.
That is true, and that's so much the Aragali has also achieved at the moment. Let's just before we wind up, Monica, I think it's time for us to find out what the results of the poll that we actually had at the beginning.
yeah.
Anu, what do you think? Let's have it on the screen right now before we say our
Okay,
goodbyes.
so the poll was quite simple. Does the Aragalaya have a reason to go on after the president? Well, we'll just modify that a little bit. The president and the prime minister leaves. Yes or no? And you were supposed to WhatsApp answer to our hotline 077 669 1590. I do think it will be a resounding yes.
Yeah, let's find out. We have the answers coming up on the screen. 4% say the Aragali has a reason to go on after the president leaves.
Wow. Okay. So 96% wants to take a break. We understandable, because
Oh, trust me, we all want to take a break.
Yeah, 4% say the Aragali has a reason to go on after the president leaves. Well, yeah, these are our viewers, of course, sending us poll results in. Thank you very much. It's as is. No tampering with the results, like Anu says. It's as is as it comes in. It's like collated and sent in.
yeah.
Monica, thank
Well,
you so much for being a
yeah.
part of the show. I know it's been a
Thank you
tough
for
couple of
having
days.
me. Thank you for having me.
I
Well,
know
I
the
would
next
also
couple of
I
days
would
are going
also
to be
say
tougher.
I would also say, we are tremendously proud of you and, everyone around you because you are doing what we all should be doing. And, it is that which has actually given our identity back. And, just kudos. This, and trust me, you
Thank you
will
so
have so
much.
many
Thank you.
stories to tell your so many stories to tell your grandchildren. It's just
You
wonderful.
know,
Definitely,
and
definitely.
honestly speaking, I know Anu and I are obviously in different generation of you. I think our generation is absolutely embarrassed that we
Yeah.
couldn't do what you guys have actually achieved so much. So in that way, we do bow down to everybody at the Aragale who's actually decided to take this on to the politicians, because we've always been brought up
Thank
with
you.
what the, this is the way
Actually,
Sri Lanka is.
yeah, thank you. Thank you. I also want to thank you for making all my school rides from home to school. I used to listen to the morning show, and like that was a routine. That was a routine. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for paying back
Core
all those
memories.
rides in
Core
that day.
memories.
Wonderful. Thanks, Monica, and all the very best for the next couple of days. We'll be in touch. Let's speak soon.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you. Take care.
Thank you. Take
Bye.
care. Bye. And before we do go, Anu, we've got something that we need to basically play on the show
Yeah,
before we say our
absolutely.
goodbyes. I think something really, really
Yeah.
nice that's actually come our way.
Yeah, this is actually, a couple of friends, Suresh, Husni, and a whole bunch of others. They call themselves Alien Accent, with a whole bunch of guest artists that made, an anthem for the Aragale. I'm sure you've heard it before, but this is probably the opportune moment to play it, because, the Aragale has achieved something incredible, something, Shaq and I never thought would be achieved in our lifetimes. So,
That's true.
all tribute to Alien Accent and to everyone else involved in the Arale at Ball Face and without, and people in their hearts who supported this, who financially supported this. It's a victory for the people. So on that note, we'll see you tomorrow. Enjoy the music.
Have yourself a good night, everybody. Take care. Bye bye.
Can you hear the people have spoken? Can you see the message is clear? This is the voice of a nation awakened. Nothing can stop us now. We've had enough of promises broken. We're sick and tired of heroes and kings. This is the rise of a new generation. It's time to get out of our way.
This is our land, this is our legacy. Our finest hour is upon us right now. This is the moment, this is the turning point. The time to rise and speak with one voice. This is the time to stake our claim, to find our pride and take it back again. We stand united, you can't divide us. We've had as much as we can take. So take your band of deceivers and walk out door. The people have spoken, now it's time to go.
No respite in the sins of the old days. No refuge in slander and blame. No escape for liars and thieves. They've taken our future away.
This is our land, this is our legacy. Our finest hour is upon us right now. This is the moment, this is the turning point. The time to rise and speak with one voice. This is the time to stake our claim, to find our pride and take it back again. We stand united, you can't divide us. We've had as much as we can take. So take your band of deceivers and walk out the door. The people have spoken. Now it's time to go. This is the time to stake our claim, to find our pride and take it back again. We stand united. You can't divide us. We've had as much as we can take. So take your belt, deceivers, and walk out the door. The people have spoken. Now it's time to go. Time to go.